You're on.
Okay. I'd like to call the village board to order for Tuesday, October 23rd. Roll call, please.
Trustee Allison Williams.
Present.
Trustee Paul.
Present.
Trustee Mark Williams. Here. Trustee Bukowski.
Here. Who?
Trustee Melcheski.
Here.
President Kardowski.
Here.
And Trustee Zerbal is en route or to be excused, Madam President.
I'm in no mood. I had no sleep last night.
Okay.
I'm in no mood.
Please stand for the pledge.
Too bad.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please remember the men and women that we have throughout the world. I am going to have a change to the agenda. If approved, I would like to take action items 10G, H, I, and J and move them up to between A and B.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to change that. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Okay. Number 5, action on open and closed minutes from September 25th and October 9th. The regular meeting of September 25th, I need a action on those minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carried. 5B, Village Board Special Meeting, October 9, 2018. Motion on those minutes?
Move to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second on those minutes. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Number 6, comments from the public. They must be limited to items not on the agenda. Anybody from the public here that would like to speak on items not on the agenda? Anybody who would like to speak on items not on the
I will.
agenda?
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Written communications.
I have none, Madam President.
I have one. I just want to let everybody know that there was a gentleman that stopped in our office today. He was from Apache. He lives on Apache. And he just wanted to stop by to say how pleased he is with everything in the village and what's going on right now, what's happening in the village. And he wanted to thank us all for everything that we have done. So we'll let the clerk take care of those. And it's great to hear those things every now and then when people stop and say that. So thank you. Okay, number 8, action on the consent agenda. The operator license, budgeted financials, general fund financials from September, and department reports.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to okay that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 9, public hearings. Public hearing regarding a floodplain zoning map amendment request for parcels VA L197, VA-L197-2, VA-L197-3, VA-L197-4, VA-L197-5, VA-L197-6, VA-L197-7, VA-L197-8, VA-L197-9, VA-L197-10, VA-L197-11, VA-L201, VA-L202. This is a public hearing for that. Anybody here that would like to speak for that item? Is there anybody here that would like to speak against that item?
This be an appropriate time to ask just for a general outline of what this is all about from somebody, or you want to wait until the ordinance?
This is a public hearing.
Yeah, I know. But someone in the audience may know a heck of a lot more about it than we do, or at least than I do.
Okay. Aaron?
The request before the board in form of the public hearing at this point is for a floodplain zoning map amendment. In the early 2000s, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, and Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, WDNR, revised the flood study for Brown County, and they more accurately mapped the flood study, or floodplain and floodway in Brown County based upon an air photo flight that was done in the year 2000. With that flight, it did more accurately map the floodplain from what had been on the map from 1970 or so. However, within that map, it's still basically a county level map. The detail is not there for site-specific planning or development. In this case, at the northwest corner of Sand Acres and Grant, the property owner requested Mao & Associates as a survey firm to go out and shoot elevations based upon the FEMA-approved base flood elevation for the area to determine more accurately than what is on the FEMA map where the floodway and the floodplain are. Now, the floodway, I'll define both those terms. The floodway is the area during a flood, the typical 100-year flood, which has a 1% chance of happening any 1 year, where the water is actually moving. The floodplain is the area during that 100-year flood, or again, 1% chance of happening any 1 year, is an area where the water will pool, but will not be actively moving. The map, as submitted by Mao & Associates, accurately, they went out and actually shot the elevations for the floodplain and floodway, as well as ran a model to determine where that floodplain and floodway is actually located based upon real elevations as determined by the survey.
And you're good with this as a planner?
Yes, I am, subject to the DNR and FEMA approvals.
Doug, you're good with this from an engineering point of view? All right, thank you very much for that explanation.
Okay. Anybody else like to speak during the public hearing on this issue?
The only thing I'd like to say, I'm Dave Krauser from Mao & Associates, and if there are any questions, I'm here to answer them. But I think Aaron explained it quite well. So.
Okay. There are no more questions. I
Move
need
to
a
close the hearing.
Second?
motion and a second to close the hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, whoop.
No, go ahead.
Action items. 10A, discussion and possible action regarding a floodplain zoning map amendment request for the parcels I read about 5 minutes ago in action item 10A. So,
Move to approve ordinance number 010-2-18, although that seems to be more of a resolution than an ordinance that we've got. Tony, am I reading it right?
Actually, I can address that. The format for the ordinance came from the DNR as their general format that they prefer for floodplain map amendments.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So the whereases is in effect an ordinance. All right, I'll make that motion to approve that then.
okay, we have a motion to approve that zoning map amendment.
I'll second that motion regarding it came through Plan Board for you people that were here early this week. I did discuss that with Jay somewhat. I was more concerned about if there was something as the village in any way responsible for
Your wife, Meg?
a catastrophe per se, a flood, whatever, and we are not, so that made it fine with me.
Okay,
Did it change at all?
Yes, it is.
Did it affect more homes or less?
I don't think it affected more, but I think it affected most of them a little bit further with the actual elevations on the ground versus what we shot. So the floodplain's actually further into the property. It is what it is. When you run the models, we're not changing. When you've got the elevations, it's saying that's where the floodplain is.
But they didn't, some parcels that weren't in the floodplain before, are they in there now?
I don't believe so.
No, they're not. I looked at that to double check that, and there are no additional parcels within the floodplain.
The only reason I'm asking those questions is we ran into one heck of a tornado last time when all of a sudden they became in the floodplain. And now it's, as long as they're not in, it hasn't changed, then I'm okay with it.
So Aaron, did any come out of the floodplain like where Mark is leading to?
Nothing came out of the floodplain,
Nothing,
but there are
but-
some, if you look at the floodway, the floodway is much better defined now, and that actually is pulled further away from some of the houses.
Okay, all right, very good.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the floodplain zoning map amendment. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we have 10G. Resolution R10-6-18, authorizing the issuance of $1,775,000 general obligation promissory note and the issuance and sale of $1,775,000 taxable note anticipation note, Series 2018D, in anticipation thereof. Mr. Wen?
So basically, the next 4 agenda items are all interrelated. They're separated with 4 different resolutions because there are 4 different, in essence, bonding types. Brad Vigut from Baird is here to walk through our financing plan. Most of this is a refinancing from back in May when we did a NAN, and he'll walk through those steps. So he's going to be talking in terms that will really impact the next 4 agenda items. Are all bond issues.
Okay, thank you. I've handed out a presentation packet just before the meeting started. Looks like this on the cover. The first page after the cover has a summary of the next 4 agenda items, and the summary from left to right is actually in just the opposite order of your agenda. So I'll just walk through from left to right on this summary page. First, there's a lot going on here. There's 4 separate financings. It's more than the village has traditionally seen, for your traditional capital improvement program. But remember, this includes the baseball stadium, and that's really why you're seeing additional financings. There's also some TID projects in here. The first is, and I'd also add, all of these numbers, interest rates, the resolutions are all finalized today based on actual, current market conditions. So the final size is just slightly different than what's posted on your agenda. So I just wanted to point that out. The first issue is a general obligation refunding bond, Series 2018A, and that's
What page are you on, Rick?
I'm on the summary page right after the cover. It's listed as page 2 in my presentation.
All right, oh, there we go.
So that first issue has a size of $1,100,000, and that 2018A was issued for TID 5 purposes, specifically Mike McCarthy Way, and also sidewalks in TID number 3. The interest rate there is 3.80%. The issue immediately next to that, the taxable GO refunding bond, Series 2018B, this is a refinancing of a short-term note that was issued earlier this year. The short-term note provided funding for the baseball stadium, its land acquisition and demolition. It also funded a TIF incentive for the Mansell Flats in TID number 3. So this is a longer-term issue, and the plan on this specific issue was to, as best we could, time the debt or match the debt service to the anticipated cash flows, anticipated revenue from the baseball stadium agreement. So the interest rate on this issue, 4.25%. Next to that, you'll see the 2018C. That final issue size is $2,840,000. This is a shorter, or a 10-year note, and this was to fund additional costs for the baseball stadium. And the interest rate there, 3.79. And then finally, the far right-hand side, there's a taxable note anticipation note. This is an interim financing. This has a 5-year maturity, and it's for TID number 3, land acquisition and demolition. The plan would be...
That's for the former Schneider National site.
Right, so the plan longer term is to take this out with long-term debt sometime after 2021, when this issue becomes after 2020, when this issue is callable. So there's a window here between 2020 and 2023 where long-term debt would be put in place. A couple other comments. The interest rates on all of these are a little bit different, and that has to do with 2 factors: the length of the repayment for each of the obligations, and also the tax status. So the taxable bonds and taxable notes generally have higher interest rates than tax-exempt bonds or notes. Finally, some very good news. Moody's affirmed the village's AA2 bond rating, and I've attached the complete credit opinion that Moody's provided specific to this set of issuance. Some of the credit strengths Moody's talks about is the expanding tax base, your healthy operating reserves and liquidity, and then they point to challenges as limited revenue-raising flexibility. That's really outside of your hands. That's really because of state levy limits and other state-imposed restrictions. And they also mention the elevated debt burden with high fixed costs. You know, that's, in some part, that's due to the set of financings. However, even though they're citing this as elevated, they're not waving a warning flag saying that your bond rating's in risk of being downgraded. So I think that's very positive. The complete report's attached. I won't go through it word for word, but I did want everybody here to get a copy. So those are the 4 sets of financings on your agenda this evening. I'd be glad to go into more detail or answer any questions that the board might have.
So we're in good shape.
Yes.
Yeah.
Looking at the credit options, I need an explanation here. Client services, you got Americans, Austria Pacific, Japanese, and EMEA. What do they have to do with what we're discussing here?
This is a Moody's report, and Moody's, it's sort of like their letterhead. They're putting contact information for contacts worldwide. I would say specifically, if someone wanted to call Moody's and talk about, Ashwaubenon, they'd be calling the Americas number.
Okay. You caught me when it said Japan.
Well, taking it one at a time, I'll move to approve resolution R10-6-18.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution R10-6-18.
Madam President, before you ask for the vote, that should be as amended, Director Winholtz, at $1,780,000.
Correct.
Okay, I'll make that motion then to amend it to $1,780,000.
And that's okay with the second? Gary?
Yes.
Okay. So that's amended to be 1.78 million of general obligation promissory notes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 10H, Resolution R 10-5-18, authorizing the issuance and sale of,
2.84 million.
thank you, 2.84 million taxable general obligation promissory notes.
Move to approve resolution R 10-5-18. Is that the one we're on?
Correct.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 10I, Resolution R 10-4-18, authorizing the issuance and sale of $12,075,000.
$12,080,000.
Thank you. 12,
Greg, why, I'm looking at 12,070,700. Why did you go to 800
80,000, not
or
75.
80,000 rather than?
It's really as the numbers were finalized today. We have the
okay.
final figures. We were just using an estimate up until this point.
Okay.
And that's a normal process. Pricing is usually finalized the day of this meeting, so there's no way to have the final.
Okay.
Well, I guess we'll be the big spenders tonight, Gary. Move to approve resolution R 10-4-18.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution R 10-4-18, authorizing the issuance and sale of $12,080,000 taxable general obligation refunding bonds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Resolution R 10-3-18, authorizing the issuance and sale of
1.1 million.
1.1 million general obligation refunding bonds.
There, we saved $400,000. All right, move to approve R 10-3-18.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution R 10-3-18. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Okay. 10B, update on the Ashwaubenon Performing Arts Center. Kate.
And I'm actually going to pass it over to Lissa Marth.
Hi, my name is Lissa Marth. I'm the chairperson of the Ashwaubenon Performing Arts Center Advisory Board, and along with me tonight are some of our select board members. And our only agenda tonight is fivefold, and I'll speak quickly with respect to your time. Long before Kate was actually hired on as our executive director, we were formed, or the intention was for this advisory board to form and serve at your pleasure as a village board. And because we've had a leadership change at both the school level and the village level, we thought it appropriate to not only refresh memories as to why we exist and what we're doing, but also share with you, as we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary as an advisory board, just a couple key deliverables that were accomplished this year and what our primary goals are as we're moving into the second year as an advisory board and working to support Kate as our executive director. When I say 1-year anniversary, we might have opened our doors on November 16th, but our board actually came together and started operating as a working board last November. So we're just coming up on 1 year. So our goals tonight are fivefold. One, to talk a little bit quickly about what it is we do. 2, to introduce the board members that are here and make ourselves available to you. 3, make sure we're on the same page about our mission and our 3 areas of focus as it relates to supporting Kate, and again, just a highlight of those goals. So what I would like to do is just quickly begin by saying our advisory board is comprised of a variety of individual strengths and talents to align the board needs to support Kate and what she's trying to do to support our community events. So while the facility is shared between the schools and the community, largely the schools take care of themselves in terms of programming and scheduling and what they're offering in that PAC. But never before did our community ever have a venue by which we would offer a season-long series of events, and everything that would take to support that and support the executive director as it relates to our 3 areas of focus, which are strategic planning for marketing, fundraising, and then research and development as it relates to a couple of different areas. So we thought it very important to support her that we had a cross-section of folks with talents in the area of law, finance, public relations, marketing, fundraising, advertising, printing, and fine arts education, knowledge, and skills. So my background is I've been here for a little over a decade working in a volunteer capacity from parent to advocate to arts advocate to consultant, special communications, and marketing. Along with me, John Filcher is our vice chair, and John's background is strategic communications, and he's actually a longtime attorney for United Healthcare and brings quite a bit of legal expertise to our advisory board. Paul Tronson, you may know him. He is a school board member and our liaison to the school board. Tammy Witter is with us tonight. She's a music educator. And Mark Williams is our liaison to the village board. So while you hear bits and pieces from the folks that know what we're working, we wanted to put a face behind the paper tonight. We've submitted in writing, and I believe Allison shared with you a written copy of our annual report, or will be. So I'm not going to read that to you, but we do have in writing all of the detail to support what's occurred over the last 12 months in summary format, according to those areas, along with our key goals going into next year. But just to quickly highlight.
Lissa?
Yes, sir.
I know I kidded you at the beginning of the meeting about
5 minutes.
Well,
so I'm determined.
but I was, you don't have to do it so quickly. This is important stuff,
Yeah,
so take
it
your
is.
time.
Okay.
It's worth the time.
So if you have any questions about the people I introduced, I was really going to deliver to 5 minutes. I do encourage you to take a look at the bios that are on the website. Kate just updated them. They're right underneath the About Us page, so you can learn a little bit about our backgrounds and what we're hoping to bring to her. Before I jump into our 3 areas of focus, I really think it's important that we draw attention, and she doesn't know I'm going to say this. I think we all know we are very fortunate because she's a one-woman show, particularly as it relates to what we're doing with our community and our season of offerings for the community. And while there may be many of us who volunteer on some committees and task force, just to give you a little bit of a background, Kate, in her position of expertise, normally has a team of not less than 4 with her. So she is doing 4. So what we are attempting to do is, as opposed to just be big ideas, actually be a working board in some type of capacity, although on a limited scope, to try to support her. But with recognition, where resources are slim, we're taking it upon ourselves to do a little bit of R&D to see if we can't strategically provide resources, whether that's to build in a budget, fundraise, and support her, recognizing there really are only so many hours a day, and we've got her working on, and she all by herself is working on the key priorities. That said, there are opportunities for improvement as we go and grow with our program. So that's what I wanted to hone in a little bit on in terms of how we support her. So really, what is our mission as a board? Share inspiration, but advise and collaborate as it relates to strategic planning. What do we want to do with our programming? How are we going to best serve our community? Fundraising to support that. How are we getting the word out with marketing? We are great in our village. How can we be great in Greater Green Bay? Okay, so we'll touch a little bit on that. And the execution of the performing arts events that appeal to not just education, which our schools are covering, but recreational and entertainment needs and desires of our greater Ashwaubenon community. So that said, we gave you a chronological timeline of how we came together, what happened over the course of the last 18 months, and then each one of those 3 focus areas. So our objectives really were research and development. We put together and then revised with Kate a programming and youth survey, which she did share some statistics with you on her end of the first season, which concluded end of May, beginning of June. Her annual report, if you will, was submitted to you in writing in June, but we've never had a formal presentation of some of those highlights. So in our first year, we did a programming and youth survey that was made available online in the water bill. We did meet and greets at the community events where 45 minutes prior to the events going on, we introduced ourselves to spectators that were coming. We provided online links. Kate did pre-show announcements to get our sample size as large as possible. We are running that as an ongoing survey, and as we go into year 2, we will update. But what were we looking for? What kind of entertainment would you like here? What is the ticket price ceiling? What are we willing to spend? How do you learn about events? What marketing strategies are going to actually reach them? Is it social media? Is it the newspaper? Is it radio? Is it print? Is it TV? CDE, all of the above she's been doing, we want to hone in. Each individual event has a very specific fan base. How do we reach that fan base? So not only are we successful, but we're even more successful with a goal of increasing our attendance and participation. So again, am I too loud?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm getting going here. How do we increase that participation? So we found out very quickly, our community here in Ashwaubenon, we love music and lots of it. Concerts, musicals, a fair amount of comedy, and we were surprised to learn we had a little bit of magic creeping in there. So that's always on the forefronts to go after. So as she goes off with her one-woman show to booking conferences, now she's making informed, well-informed decisions. She has 20-some years of experience in the performing arts and running programs, but specific to Ashwaubenon. So we can recruit and bring back those recommendations. We also, with R&D, I'd like to point out our big accomplishment this year is we wanted to find other facilities like ours across the state of Wisconsin specifically. Because New York might be great, but New York's not us. And when we say across Wisconsin, when I say specific, I mean facilities that share their building with the schools and the community. And we wanted to find facilities that do both of the things, that reside on school-owned property and maybe share at least one wall with the school. Like, do those buildings exist? Because if we can get at them to ascertain best practices, while we may make our own decisions here as a village board, isn't it great to know what our neighbors who have walked before us experienced before we make decisions so we can learn from their mistakes and learn from their successes? So we found 13 PACs across the state of Wisconsin. We were successful with 11, all of them shared by the schools and the village, all of them on school-owned or village-owned property. Most of them share at least a wall. However, half of them are within the schools. So those half were highly restrictive because they were within the schools. The ones that were independent and shared a wall with the school or were sitting on school-owned property independent were the ones we were most interested in. Because when you're fully enclosed within a school, that's going to have a lot of limitations as it relates to public access and security and that type of thing. What did we ask them about? Security, public safety for the events, marketing, signage. How do we get people to the facility from municipal directional signage to actually promotion signage? Things like alcohol service. Things like amenities, the differences between the children's programs, all family programs, school programs, and community events. How do they treat those differently? We arrived at a host of findings and learned all sorts of great stuff that we'll be happy to share with you in the future. Tonight we don't have time, but that is the type of information we want to be able to bring strategically as a board. So when she's, again, often making recommendations and as an executive director, she's not standing on an island alone. So we want to make you aware that we were able to accomplish that this year. On the fundraising side of things, as you well know, Ken and Mark highly involved in helping to fundraise to find show sponsors. We recognize that if we can get assistance from area businesses and local residents, that it will make it that much easier for us to bring high-quality entertainment and keep us in the black or break even at the end of the year. And I don't think any of us expected to get into the black after our first year of operating. So we wanted to make sure to continue that momentum running into the second season, and obviously we want to practice well what we're doing strong, learn from what we need to improve as we move into our next season of getting sponsors and helping to accomplish that. Also, from a fundraising perspective, we are right in the beginnings of trying to assemble and organize a sensible P&L where everybody's on the same page about how we're categorizing those expenses and looking at the P&L related to community events and everything it takes to put those on in that facility. So we do have a meeting coming up with Keith Lucius from the school district side where he's capturing all of that. And that's coming up in the next 2 weeks, where we will have a few folks from our PAC advisory board working with he and Kate to be able to do that. We hope to deliver that to you before the end of this year. We recognize we need to set a precedent, so as we move forward year to year, we're not making exceptions on how we captured expenses in years prior. From a marketing standpoint, I alluded to the fact that in our village, we do a great job, Kate does a great job. Two advisory board members who are not here with us tonight are specialists as it relates to marketing, graphic design, public relations, and external communications. And they work very closely with Kate, and she's designed a beautiful season brochure, as you well know, and the rack card, and we have, again, print advertising, TV and radio, and we're doing a great job in our village. As a matter of fact, I want to make sure I don't misquote the statistic, Kate. What percent of our ticket sales? 61% of our 17-18 ticket sales were from Ashwaubenon and De Pere zip codes. Okay, so what is that? Another way of looking at that is 39% coming from everywhere else. We feel we have an opportunity to improve, to reach right across the bridge, right to all the way across the bridge, and let those folks know when we have great events going on here, so we can move our audience numbers from 300, 400, 500 derriers in the seats to 740. And won't that be fabulous for us? So not just operating in the black, but the more black we can get, the higher quality entertainment we can bring in, and the more we can underwrite. So when we look at those opportunities, this is where we run into limited resources. So one of our key goals moving forward into next year as a strategic board is to do some R&D. What marketing, PR resources are out there that specialize in digital media and other that are affordable, that we can help outsource some of the marketing that absolutely needs to be done if we want to reach beyond our village and be able to increase our participation in our PAC, which will only help our village suppress ticket prices and keep quality entertainment really affordable. So as we move into next year, what are we doing? From R&D, we are updating again that programming and use survey to increase our sample size and continue to get input. We are continuing to do meet and greets in the lobby before community events. We are going to absolutely take a study and provide recommendations related to the signage needs that we are in desperate need of. Folks know how to get to us if they live with us. If they don't live with us, they have a tough time getting to us. Thank goodness for GPSs, okay? But we think we can do a better job with that. We just don't know what that looks like yet, so we've got to do some homework. When it comes to fundraising, as soon as we get our arms wrapped around the P&L, we'll report out to you. We are looking next year, we hope to have our first ever Friends of the PAC annual gala that we'd like to have every year, which potentially could have a huge headliner. We don't have all the plans formed yet. First, we want to get our arms wrapped around the P&L to understand what we would like to fundraise for. It's best practice in the PAC world to have an annual giving campaign. Well, what are we asking people for money for? Well, one of three things. Updates as it relates to the facility or amenities, 2, as it relates to programming, and 3, as it relates to other needs that occur throughout the year. When it comes to programming, we are a facility that serves at the pleasure and serves our public. We primarily support her for the community events. If we're asked, and we have been asked for, children's series, senior citizen series. So wouldn't it be great to underwrite those full series of entertainment and events that are geared to them? So we're going to look into launching our first annual gala that will coincide with a giving campaign. And then lastly, on the fundraising side, we recognized one of our facility needs, and it's real, is that we need to have wheelchair access to the most frequently used entrance into our facility. So while we have it, it's not necessarily at the most frequently used entrance, and there is no drop-off shelter overhang. I won't go on tonight about that, just know that we have a prospective, very generous donor that we've already met with, that we will continue to meet with, and we need to get off the ground now, because we have a prospective generous donor that is willing to help us with that, if not fully cover it. So we want to put that into motion into 2019. And lastly, from a marketing standpoint, make sure we're doing everything we can do to increase our reach, to have the highest ticket sales possible, to deliver the highest quality entertainment possible. Kate, would you like to say anything?
How can you do that without coming up with
That wasn't bad, was it? Okay. So that's it. Allison has the annual report for us. Thank you for hearing me. Do you have a question?
No,
I just wanted to thank Lissa and the rest of this board, the advisory board for the PAC. It's true, we couldn't accomplish as much as we do without everybody volunteering their time and their effort. This is truly a working board. There's a lot of boards out there that are not working boards. This is a working board, and I'm greatly, greatly appreciative, so thank you.
Yay. Woo, woo, woo.
I would just like to say, as a lot of other board members up here have attended many different events at our PAC, and it truly is a gem. It truly is a gem in the community. And when I talk to people in Ashwaubenon that move from other communities and they move into Ashwaubenon, they can't believe that a group of 17,000 residents voted to tax themselves. But wow, we got some really great facilities. And I know Mark and Ken and are very active with the PAC, and we've all been there, so it's amazing.
Well, we're very grateful because of what you just said as well. We have the support from the village and the schools, and to that end, Mary, we are honored and thrilled that not only did our residents vote to support it, but better than 70% of those voters did, which is incredible. So we feel a responsibility to deliver the highest quality we can, increase our reach, and make sure we're satisfying to the need.
Yeah, we had the Packer meeting there last week, and when we were leaving, Aaron Popke mentioned to me that he said, wow, Mary, this is really a beautiful facility. He had never been there.
He said the same when he walked in the doors, because I let him in. He's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah. So
Personally, I think listening to you, was my brain had to go a little faster than it normally does. And I don't know if I accomplished everything. But I think when this whole program started, it was based on if we break even, we're doing well.
Yeah.
I think the whole staff that runs this operation should be applauded for being in the black in the first year. That is fantastic. That's
amazing.
Better than we ever expected.
Yep.
So I applaud you people for doing a good job.
Well, thank you. We applaud two of you that are sitting up there that helped us with that initiative when it came to finding those show sponsors as well.
Gary,
So-
we'll explain all this to you later.
Yeah, it's a love fest. And no, in all seriousness, so we're very
Thought
appreciative.
you were tired.
So, do you have any questions, and are we A-okay with where we're headed?
yeah, but Kate, did you get my request?
Oh, no,
Did you-
don't you be
Did
doing
you get
that
my
now.
request booked yet?
We'll meet later.
Okay, something's cooking, something's brewing.
It would be just a little dinner party.
Just a little dinner party.
Just a little dinner
Private party.
So after you do get a chance to read this, if you have any questions, please.
Ask any
Yes.
If you didn't read that whole thing, I bet you did.
Now, I have been accused, what is that, John, of writing a novel close to War and Peace? I thought 4 pages was really, really good. Okay.
But you can cover 4 pages in 5 minutes pretty easy the way you talk.
And Gary, if we need a review later, I'm all yours. Okay? Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you,
very
ladies.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say, you remember, Gary, the $4,000 that the board said, okay, to get that blacktop? Last Saturday, there was a sellout for a Cup of Joy rented the PAC, and they sold it out. and there was a huge camper and another truck that went in there. If we hadn't had that blacktop in there, it would have been mud. So that was a very good thing
Yeah,
that happened.
yeah.
So that's
Well,
good.
I did have a question on that. It just so happened when the Packers made their announcement on the second phase, I came in the side door, and I looked at that little patch of blacktop, and I said, $4,000? But evidently, I haven't bought any blacktop.
It's pricey.
That was about half of it, Gary.
Well, that was half, yeah, there really was an eighth.
Yeah.
God, I
Well,
don't even
not-
want to
not
think
quite
of that
eight.
now.
Because that was.
Thank you for the blacktop.
Okay, moving on. 10C, update on the summer free lunch program. Allison,
Or Rex?
it has your name on it? This is Betsy?
Sure, come on up.
Correct?
Come on up.
Betsy?
Yes.
Great. Okay.
Well, someone said, why don't you attend the village meeting and give them an update? So here
Pull
I
that
am.
microphone
pull
close
that
to you,
mic up,
okay?
please?
Okay,
There you, yeah.
all right. So my name is Betsy Farrer. I'm a registered dietitian, and I'm also the child nutrition coordinator for Ashwaubenon Schools. And then this past summer, as most of you know, we started the summer food service program in the parks. And it was very well received, better than we could even imagine. You know, the purpose of it was to continue nutritious meals to children during the summer. We saw a void. We were census-based. We had funding from the government, and we proceeded forward. Rex and I collaborated, and we worked through Parkview Middle School, and we prepared all of the meals at Parkview and delivered them to the park in a bag format. The van pulled up. There was a wonderful relation-building experience between my staff and some of the students in the park. It was a very, very heartwarming experience all summer. We had summer school going on at Parkview, so our numbers will be reflective according to that date. And so summer school started on June 13th and ended on July 11th. So during the month of June, we served 3,602 meals over 13 days. The line was out the door and down the sidewalk. It was amazing. That's about close to 300 meals every day. Once summer school ended, we still had a little bit of overflow into July. We served 21 days in July. We served 893 meals. So our average went down to about 137, 140 meals every day. The park are actually, once summer school ended, the park volume went up. So the kids that weren't at school having the lunch went back and ate at the park. So there was a couple very warm days. Those were the lowest days that we had meal participation. In August, we served 909 meals over the 11 days of service, about 82 meals. So it was very, very successful.
Who funds this?
Pardon me?
I might have missed it. Who funds this?
The government funds it,
What government?
United States Department of Agriculture.
Okay, all right. They give a grant to the school district or the city, or the village?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What are the, is it to any kid that is eligible, or is it to just free and reduced lunch kids?
No, it's all children 18 and under. That's right.
No matter
So-
what?
No matter what. So there was a park attendant, I believe that was under 18, and they received free meals.
Is this at all the parks or just one of the parks?
Well, we collaborated with Rex, and we decided we were going to service Fort Howard Park. So Parkview Middle School and Fort Howard Park. So we went where the park attendants were, and my initial thought was to do it at Clipstein, but it ended up Fort Howard had a park attendant, so we went there.
Okay, thank you.
Fort Howard had what, ma'am?
A park attendant, a parkie.
Okay. Did you keep track of the kids that came that were under 18? Were they the same kids that kept coming back?
Yes, for the most part, yes. We had the same kids come back every day.
It sure makes me wonder where the parents are.
We're there for the kids to feed them a healthy lunch. So
That's a problem.
it's very
That's the problem,
purpose.
Gary, that there's a lot more, you know, kids out there than you realize that don't have anything.
Well,
That's why they provide it.
The question is-
I understand that, but boy, always go back, where are the parents today? You know, we never had nothing like that years ago, and all of a sudden, we're feeding everybody. It's not that I'm against it, but I really come down on some people when we have to do that. In the schools now, we're feeding the kids 3 times a day. That really disturbs me somewhat. I compliment you on your work. You know, I know it's government funded. It's government funded. We are the government. We are paying for this. So, you know, how far do our budgets extend? So, thanks for doing the job. That's all I can say about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Betsy. It's terrible to think that we're at that point in our society that, you know, this is might be the only nutritious meal that those kids get
That's very
in a
true.
day. And that's the way you have to look at it.
Mom is working, you know. Mom-
So, okay. 10D, action on ordinance number 010-1-18, amending section 3-2-100, A, parent 3, Class A liquor license quota.
Last month, the village board signed off on 2 Class A liquor license. That took us to a village self-imposed quota number of 8. With that, I brought forth to Public Works and Protection options, namely unlimited, and it was amended at committee level to 16 to change the quota to 16, and that's what's before you tonight.
I think, I'm just going to say something here once real quick. I don't know why we want to change it, to be very honest with you. Every time we come into liquor license, talking about it and everything, we got the mixed emotions about how many liquor licenses do we want to have in this village? And it's like every time we turn around, we have to have a liquor license, and I'm not in favor of changing it, to be very honest.
Well, if the gentleman yield, I would say the example I provided at committee level is we have 2 new hotels coming in. Perhaps one of them want to put a pantry in to do what, like, Home 2 Suites. Well, I'm just saying, you use the term picking and choosing winners and losers in the past, and that's what you would be essentially doing this. I am not the legislative body. I am just the conduit of information, and you may stifle potential development by not making said change.
Well, as I understand it, this is self-imposed, right? There's no
Correct.
statutory.
There's no state statute.
So we impose this limit by ordinance on our village.
Right, this is to sell packaged liquor.
Yeah, yeah.
This isn't to to have a bar.
Well, there was a bit of a good discussion at the committee level, and some folks wanted the word unlimited there, and I didn't like that at all. I just thought that was too wide open. I'm not even in favor of 16. I wanted 12, but it's not life and death. I would vote for 16. But I do think, Mark, that Pat raises a valid point, that we're at 8, right? We're at 8
Correct.
now. And if somebody else comes in, I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I voted no on this liquor license in the mall. I voted no on that. I can't see it. But this one, to me, is a little different. We can still vote no on individual requests, but
Why?
why what?
Why vote no on anything else if you increase this?
Well, they're different situations. I might agree with one and not like the one in the mall. I just didn't agree with that, so I voted no. If another one comes in, it's a hotel, and they want to have a pantry, so to speak, maybe I'd vote yes on that. It's a whole different animal. So I'm in favor of raising it to 16.
You know, I remember when the Home 2 Suites was coming here, and I don't think that they thought that there was an issue with having a liquor license, and they have their area that's in their lobby is set up exactly the same as it is everywhere, because I've been to the one in Milwaukee. And the gentleman who owns that called me, and he said, I'm putting up a $13 million hotel, and you're telling me that I can't sell a bottle of beer in my lobby, when people who stay at the home too, that's what they expect. So I'm not for the unlimited. I don't know that I would vote for 16. I might consider, you know, like Ken said at committee, 12, but I think it should be raised.
I'm in favor of 16 just solely so it's self-imposed, so we don't have to amend the ordinance every time we turn around. There's a lot more development, I think, going on in Ashwaubenon right now, which means I do truly think they're going to come quicker. I'd rather just amend the ordinance once. Well, I mean, not once for forever, but you know what I mean? Potentially just amend it and not have to continuously amend it every time. Because if we get to 12, then what are we going to do? Increase it to 20?
If anybody's going to vote in favor of putting another number on it, it's, there shouldn't be, because it's like, what difference does it make? It doesn't make any difference if you go to 16, if there's 8. You're gonna, if you want a limit on it, keep it at 8. I mean, and making decisions off of that.
That's the problem, Mark. We've already used the 8. There is no decision.
Then go to unlimited.
There's no decision to be made. We can't give any more if we don't change the number, or go to unlimited. But I'm not in favor of that. I just think we need to take a look at this. And I agree with you in this point, that this is a very crucial issue for any community, but here in particular, where we get a lot of development of this kind, I think we have to keep an eye on our liquor licenses, and I'd rather go to 16 than unlimited.
But if you go to, if it doesn't make any difference, why change it? Just leave it at 8.
Because we're there already. We can't, in other words, I care, because if someone else comes in, as Mary described, if someone else comes in with a motel or a hotel and they want to sell it out of a pantry, so to speak, why would we say no? Because we already have 8 used up? No, that doesn't make sense to me.
What if you look at it from the perspective of we're at 8 and we have so much more in the pipeline coming? We
already know that.
We know it's coming, so eventually, I mean, you'd like to think some of the development might slow, and it's going to slow down. So if we know all of this is coming, we've hit 8, to get to 12 might happen pretty quickly, but then after that, it could trickle tremendously.
If it gets to 16, then we can change it to 20. Or if it gets to 20, we can 19, we
Right.
can go to 25.
Right.
I mean, so why have a number if you're going to change it? I'm going to vote against it anyway, so.
Okay, I'll make a motion so we can get it going here one way or another. Is that an O, by the way, in front of the 10? That's an O, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
ordinance.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance O10-1-18.
What number is that?
That's the 16, changing the 8 to 16, Gary.
I'm a little lost there.
No one seconds it, I guess. Okay.
Second,
No.
are you going to do it?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to
How many
approve
numbers?
ordinance number
Get to
010-1-18, which amends the Class A liquor license from 8 to 16.
16, okay.
From 8 to 16.
I'm with you now.
All those in favor?
I just
Whoa,
want to say
okay,
that I don't
discussion.
think that we should be changing, if you're going to put a number on it, why? I mean, you might as well go unlimited. I'm not going to vote in favor of it anyway, so.
I voted for unlimited at committee and would again.
Well, I sat in on that meeting, not that I was sat in, I listened to it, let's put it that way. I heard Allison say unlimited. You know what? I was kind of for her, because you know what? We end up approving whatever comes anyway. So do we really need a number? The 9th one is going to come sooner or later, the 10th one is going to come sooner or later, and we will approve it. Or I shouldn't say we'll approve it, but we can or don't have to approve it. So I don't think a number means much. Because, like somebody said, we'll get to 16, then we're going to raise it to what?
Is the one that wanted to go in the mall, was that this kind of Class A?
Yes.
Same one.
Okay, we said no to that one, Gary.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, no.
Well, you
It
did.
passed.
You did. It passed.
Oh, it passed.
4-3.
It passed.
Beating in.
4-3.
Yeah, it was
That was the
4-3.
eighth, that was the eighth.
Okay.
But we-
All right. Oh, that was the eighth one, okay.
We have that right to approve or
Yeah,
disapprove.
right, right.
So a number to me don't mean much. I kind of, I have to agree with Allison on who cares about the number?
Do we know how many years it took to reach the 8, Pat?
I couldn't tell you.
You could, okay.
I mean, I think the next number, whatever, if we set a number, I think it's going to come quicker than it took to get to 8.
I agree with that.
Well, there's
So-
no, you're right, with what we've got in the sight of what's going to come, we're going to be approving something pretty soon.
I mean, the issues that our board always struggles with are liquor licenses, and the such. I mean, it's a very contentious issue, so I feel that we should have a limit on it. So, I would like 12, but I'll go for the 16, but,
I'll call the question and move it along.
okay, we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 010-1-18. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay.
Yep, you bet.
10E, Green Bay Water Billing Services. Mr. Gregg.
This came before finance personnel and was recommended to move to a village board. Basically, what we're looking at doing is taking our existing service that we provide for the water utility, where we collect the billing, collect the receipting of people paying their water bills, and moving that service to the Green Bay Water Utility, not the city, the Green Bay Water Utility. There's two reasons why we're looking to do that. One, we have an employee that's retiring. That's our primary water utility clerk who handles those responsibilities. So it would be an opportunity to, again, look at processes, what's a good decision. We wouldn't have to retrain that employee. We have the ability to reshuffle some duties internally with different personnel. And at the end of the day, it's actually down half an FTE, if you will, with things moved around. The other reason why is the Green Bay Water Utility already does this service for all the other communities that they service the water for. So we're the only ones out there. And it's really just the collection. We still have our service crew, the water utility foreman, and that crew that goes out, handles all the service needs within the village. We don't lose anything else. And we still read the meters, do all that work, and we would just push that information to Green Bay like we do today. Green Bay currently produces the bills for us and mails them out. So all of that kind of stays the same. It's just when you get the bill in mail, no longer will you come to the village or mail it to the village. You'll simply mail it to the Green Bay Water Utility. And so we think it just makes a lot of sense. They have the ability to take that on. Currently, everything that we do, we're trained by their staff. The system we use is the one they use. It's not any new systems. The water bills, for all intents and purposes, will look exactly the same. So it's kind of makes sense from an efficiency standpoint. The one major change, and this was noted, is in order for the Green Bay Water Utility to be more efficient, they would ask that we could stagger our billing. So currently, we bill 4 times a year. It's a quarterly billing. All village residents' businesses are billed on a quarterly basis at the same time. They would like to stagger that into 3 parts. So part A of the village would get billed quarterly, starting January, April, July, October. Another third would get billed February, May, August, November, and the last third would be billed March, June, September, December. So it's a disruption of billing service for basically the first quarter, if you will. And then everybody would continue to be billed quarterly. That allows them, from a staffing perspective, to not have major fluctuations of super busy 1 month and then kind of lag off for 2 months. They'd have a nice, consistent flow, not only with the Ashwaubenon residents, but also the other communities that they serve. The cost of this from the Green Bay Utility is $10,000 per quarter. And so when you break that down, we talked about the cost that we spend on an employee with benefits. We feel overall this cost will be absorbed in the water utility budget, and we think overall with other subsequential moves with staffing, we're actually going to net out ahead as a whole for the village. Issues that came up at finance personnel were things like how do we do some mailings through the water bill, if you will. We don't have maybe as many as it feels, but we do that. So yes, it would create an issue where people aren't all getting that mailing at the same time, but we can still do mailings. We can find different ways to outreach the residents. Our goal is to, if this is approved from now to the end of the year, to figure out who those thirds are, generate some communication out to each of those groups, whether through online, through mailing, on the cable channel, etc., to let residents and people know how that will work. So that's really what we're looking to do. I think as a resident, look at this similar to when we used to take tax collections here, and we stopped doing that, and the community had to then go through Brown County. It'd be very similar to that. I can recall very, very few complaints or people coming in. Most people came in, oh, that's right, I forgot, and they went on their way. Also, actually very similar to the community center now, housing Park and Rec. We get people that come in still looking for Park and Rec, and oh, okay, and they just go drive over there. There's not a lot of anger or frustration. We would anticipate trying to be a little bit accommodating, maybe the first billing cycle, the first 3 to 6 months, helping people. Maybe we could take that and we'll mail it, but just knowing that at some point we would stop doing that.
Greg, how many people pay automatically with a credit card? I know we do. It's just very convenient. Do a lot of people do that? If not, we should notify them.
Yeah, that would be another push that we would do with this mailing is, hey, FYI, you don't, as much as we like to see you, you don't need to come in. You can do online banking. You can pay with your credit card, and here's
so you
how
could take it out of people's bank accounts as well, if they agree, obviously.
The majority of people pay through some electronic means.
Okay.
Yes. And there's a lot of people that just drop it off. They just come drop it off here. They don't even want a receipt. So there's a lot of that. We have staff that gets over to the utility probably once a week. So we would have the ability to get those payments over there, bring them to the right people over at the Green Bay Water Utility.
This, they do billing for De Pere and Alloway. Wrightstown, which we sell Wrightstown water, right? Okay.
At Finance and Personnel, like Greg said, we had a lot of discussion about the mailings and, how we're going to get different things out to the, information out to the people. Right now, we're doing it for nothing. We still can do it, but it would be a staggered information, if you will, and not everybody at the same time. The other thing that is, as far as budgeting, this is an increase to our budget because we're not getting rid of the staff, we're reassigning them. So we had a little bit of discussion about that as well. The reassignment of what they're going to be doing, who they're going to be helping out and everything. So the staff would remain, the FTE, if you will, would stay on our budget, but not with the water utility. Just so everybody understands that.
I'll move to approve.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve that. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, Greg,
I don't have a second.
that's $40,000 a year that we're going to be spending for Green Bay to do that. You feel as though that's a wash, that it's really costing us more than that to do it in-house?
The $40,000 will be absorbed into the water utility budget, so that will not be a part of on the tax roll, if you will. The internal staff, how we're looking to reposition, correct, we have an employee retiring, that employee's out the door. We're looking to absorb that position
Did you
role.
say an employee is retiring?
Correct.
Okay, so we're going to lose an employee
Lose an FTE, and we're going to
regardless.
replace that with an additional half FTE, essentially, on the general fund.
Movement of employees. So an employee has expressed interest in moving over, except for the job duties overall would change. There's going to be a shifting of job duties within 3 different locations. Right now, there's a total of 2.5 FTEs, and essentially we would go to 2 FTEs. It's just that they're spread out between water utility, storm, water utility, sewer utility, and general fund. But what we're saying is the impact to the general fund budget remains the same. But there is a reduction in FTEs overall in terms of people here at the village.
Okay, and you said the $40,000 would be absorbed in the water bill. That means the water bill is going to go up a tad?
No.
I don't know that that's going to necessarily drive the rate up on its own merit. It'd be part of the entire budget. Yes, it's an additional $40,000 to the water budget.
The water utility,
Water utility.
not the
Actually
water
split
bill.
Between, yeah.
But their total allocation of employees went down
Yep, they're out,
slightly.
right.
And we're making a smaller modification in the short run because there's still going to be a learning curve. I mean, whether we did this move or not, we have a different employee that needs to learn the tasks. So there is a learning curve, and we're dealing with that short term in the budget one way, but not necessarily long term. Would the water utility still be at those same levels, if that makes sense? I don't know
So in essence, for the water utility, right now, the employee that's retiring, roughly 95% of their work is utility related, and 95% of that person's total personnel cost goes to the utilities as a whole. So it's a lot bigger than $40,000. That person's gone, so you just netted the utility cost went down, add 40. The person coming over will still retain about 50% of their duties, still helping with the utility from a service perspective. So dealing directly with the guys out on the field who are either taking service requests, who are reading the meters, all that goes into the service side. And there's attachment in the agenda item which explains the tasks and who would do what. So the amount of payroll allocation to the utility goes down 50% and is replaced with $40,000, which is roughly a wash, if you will. I'm not doing exact figures because you got different people filling different spots. From the general fund side, we go from 2.5 FTEs down to 2 FTEs. And that other 50% of that person that used to go to the utility stays in the general fund, so therefore that's somewhat of a wash too. So it just all balances out because we're able to absorb we lose all that work, but we lose a half a FTE, but we're redistributing work within basically 3-4 different departments, if you will, to make this all balance out. So it's a wash for both sides, the utility side and the general fund side, because we're actually going to lose an FTE in the whole process. And part of that's not allocated now to the utility. The 40,000 fills that gap, and so forth. It fills both sides.
Employee salaries in there. You still have mailing costs, envelope costs, printing costs. There's other things associated with that more than just the salary. Obviously, that's the greatest portion of it, but there's the other things that go into that as well.
Okay. All right.
Okay, Gary, Gary, did you second that?
I did.
Oh, I'm sorry, Allison did. I knew there was a second, I just didn't know who. Okay, any more discussion on this item? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 10F, request to modify the village health plan design and rates.
I feel like this should be one of Doug's items because it's going to be really boring.
Oh, wow. That's hurtful.
So, Pat, if you could go to the chart that's attached to my green sheet, I think that would be helpful.
What page? Right there.
Allison, this is what I do all day, every day, so.
It says packet page 56.
I'm sorry, page what?
56.
56?
Packet page
61.
56, it says.
61?
So each year we take a new look at our insurance, where we're headed, where we're going, how we're performing. One of the things that we did each year we have kind of a reoccurring discussion with our broker in terms of some of the divisions between our tiers. We currently have an individual employee plan, there's an employee plus one and then a family rate. We have two different plans. We have a high deductible plan and we have a traditional, what we call a traditional plan or PPO plan. Our HSA plan is performing extremely well. We're running about 72% of what we're budgeted. Our traditional plan or PPO plan is running closer to 100% of where it's budgeted. Actuarially speaking, our HSA plan, since it only has, it's like 33 members or 30 members, it's not statistically significant enough to be run on its own. So if you run it from an actuarial perspective, in terms of where it should be budgeted, it would be higher than where it's performing right now. It wouldn't be running at 72%. It's just that in terms of the employees that have migrated there, tend to be employees that are healthier, more consumer driven, and see the benefits of that high deductible plan, and that's why they've moved over there. And that's why it continues to perform well. So when our broker runs our costs for the year and talks to us about where we should be budgeting our plans, they really run them as one collective plan. We're small in nature anyway. We're just at the right size in terms of being able to be self-insured. If we were much smaller than this, it would be, it's relatively speaking, it could be fairly volatile because of the size of our group, but it still makes sense for us to do that, and we've been able to weather those storms. But what ends up happening if you run the plans together, we've been trying to drive employees and incentivize employees to get to that high deductible plan. And if you run them together, that HSA side starts to subsidize the PPO side. And so we're trying to manage two separate plans, even though actuarially and it's not that practical. So we're looking at ways to kind of rectify to that going forward, because once employees start migrating over to the HSA plan, it's going to perform more as in conformance with what is actuarially projected. It's going to run at a higher cost. In addition, within our plans, our single rate is not, let's just say that's one. The employee plus one rate is not necessarily 2 times that, and our family rate is not necessarily 3 times that. So you should think of it as an employee is just one, and if there's 2 people on the next tier, that should be two premiums, if you will, and then a family, it's at least 3 members, and it should be at least 3 or more in terms of that premium amount. And we don't have the equal ratios, if you will, between those different plans, which causes the individual and employee plus one tends to be subsidizing the family plan. So we have those overall structural issues that we really need to work towards a game plan and trying to correct. In addition, we're looking for ways in which the PPO plan, it has to look to what its future expenses are for next year, just in terms of overall increased costs in health care. And we want to avoid or incentivize people to switch over to the other plan, take on more risk, become better consumers, and have a game plan in terms of how we drive people over to that other plan. Also, when we started the HSA plan, our goal was to only have these 2 different plans for 5 to 7 years. And we are now in this 2019 will be year 4. So if you recall, also we changed brokers about 2 years ago now. She's really been reviewing and working within the parameters of the plans that we have. And so one of the questions I asked her is, if you walked in the door fresh and could kind of give us a new perspective on where things would be, what would you do with the plans? So we worked with trying to resolve all of those issues, and essentially what you see on the screen in very, very tiny print is the result of those efforts. What she is proposing, and you see in the yellow box off to the side, what's in yellow, would be the changes to the traditional plan, which there are several moving parts inside of that. There is overall increased deductibles, increased co-pays, and increases on the maximum out-of-pockets, okay? But one thing that we don't currently have is, so if you look on the box on the far left, a single employee has to meet $1,000. The employee plus one needs to meet $1,500, and the family meets a $2,000 deductible. So in a family, your entire anybody in your family, whether it's one or a collection of all the family members, has to get to that $2,000 deductible before there is coverage at 90/10. There is no embedded deductible. There's not one person that needs to meet a lower deductible within that. Within the new plan structure, the single would be $1,250, so it's an increase in deductible of $250, but that deductible is embedded in each of the next tiers. So on an employee plus one, if the spouse incurs the medical costs, they would only have to reach $1,250, which is actually less than they do in our current plan, because currently they would have to meet $1,500. Does that make sense? Is everybody with
Doug, I just want to say, you're a ball of fire compared to this.
Wow. Allison, my only question is on the yellow part where it says 1250. What does MBR, member?
Member, right. So we also have a health advisory committee, and they have battled through this with us very patiently. This version that you're seeing is actually the third version we've gone through with our broker, but one of the comments that our health advisory committee said was, we really need to highlight that there's a new change in how that deductible works, because employees here have not seen that, and just trying to clarify how that impact is. So that's why it's a little unique. So we're increasing your deductible and co-pays on the office visits. The prescription, for the most part, employees are on generics. So that's not changing. The highest volume of what our prescriptions are generics. The other tiers have increased. Overall, the plan design trends more towards what is typical in health benefits throughout the state. If you go to the second sheet, Pat, if you can scroll down one more. Do we have the little pointer by any magical chance? Or I can just,
I used to.
really point.
You know, I used to have one. I lost it here someplace. I think that's it.
This is where I'm going to razzle dazzle you more than what
are you
Doug
saying
does.
you
I'm going to
can't reach
use a
that?
pointer.
Are you saying, Allison, you can't reach that if you just walk over to the?
No, I don't even know if I could reach the bottom of the screen. Okay, so what I had talked to you before were in terms of those spreads between, so if you look over here, our single premium equivalent right now total is $927. It would move to $699 for 2019. So it's actually a reduction in the monthly premium to the single tier. And then you can also see that that's $927, but if you were to go to the employee plus one in terms of what it currently is, it really should be more like $1,800. Like all these, this is not one, and then this is not times two, and the next one's not times three in terms of how many members are on each of those levels. So what you see in this column here, where you see the 1, 2, 3, it's trying to show that multiplier effect in terms of the single is going to be one premium amount, the next one's going to be times 2, and then the family is going to be times 3, kind of get to the spread between the tiers.
Yeah, but doesn't it go on age at all in factoring in this at all for rates?
Did you say age?
Yes.
Not necessarily, because singles could be any age. Employee plus one could be an employee plus a child, or it could be employee plus a spouse.
Right.
And those could be, so there's no way to distinguish between a newly married couple that is 30 years old on the plan, or a single mom with one kid that's younger versus
when I buy an insurance policy,
soon to be retired.
When I buy an insurance policy for our group, we buy the employee, whatever, if it's a male 40 years old, they got a rate.
That's on an age-banded plan.
Well, you're age banded, but you're also buying a off-the-rack plan. We're self-insured. So all of our employees are all in the same bucket. All of our members are in the same bucket. The village is paying for all of those claims, and we're paying someone separately, in this case UMR, to administer those claims. So whatever the claims are, that's what they are. There is no, nobody ran our claims at UMR to say, okay, this is what it's gonna cost, and your plan costs X amount of dollars for the year.
But they know a 40-year-old woman's rates are gonna be such compared to a 40-year-old male.
Right, but our plans are not weighted by who they are or what they are. We're self-insured. You're not gonna see that same
Typically, smaller
calculation.
companies do age banded, but larger companies do not.
We're not carved up. We're not buying 16 plans for people of this age and 7 of this age and this sex. It's not work. It's all the people thrown into one hopper, if you will. It's one big giant pool of expenses. And if we all are extremely healthy one year, that plan's gonna do great, and there will be money left over at the end of the year. If there's not, you're paying the same amount whether you use it or not. It will
Right.
change your rate next year. Ours does not change based on a
Whether you use it or
good
not
year or
doesn't
bad
make
year.
any difference for me. They're gonna get an increase no matter what.
Right, but if you had a bunch of high-cost claims, your next year's rates would go up.
They're gonna
Ours
go up,
isn't
yeah.
necessarily changing that way. Each year kind of stands on its own. Somebody could have a lot of claims one year, but
Yep.
not a lot of claims the next year. And it overall, because of the size of our pool, it's kind of more or less, it tends to level out, except for exceptionally high-cost claims, for which we have reinsurance at that level after 75,000 in claims. But
Well, we've had
Separate
this
purposes.
discussion before at committee and everything, and I think it's like,
yes,
we gotta keep going, otherwise
yes, I will keep going.
it just gets my blood pressure going every time I get to this subject, so.
Yes. So I'm going to keep going. So we are trying to change the impact between the plans, change the PPO overall to absorb its anticipated increase in costs next year, while not having the HSA plan have to subsidize that. So what you see here are several different, you have 3 different moving parts, if you will. You have plan design, changes between the spreads, and then an overall difference between the PPO and the HSA is also impacted, because previously the PPO, let's just say the PPO is worth $1. Our HSA right now, we're budgeting, and our premiums are worth like 72, we're saying it's like 72 cents. But if we get more people moving over to that HSA plan and we start performing in terms of what would be actuarially predicted for a larger group, we will not be collecting high enough premiums on the HSA. That HSA plan, in terms of that plan design, if we went up, you don't have to actually change the page, but if you're on the other page in terms of the way the plan design is, they are mathematically closer. The PPO traditional plan is worth like $1. Our HSA plan would be worth like 96 cents. Does that make sense? They're much closer. It's just that they aren't performing in practical ways that way, just because of how few people are in the one plan. And in addition, how our employees perceive them to be much different. People perceive that HSA to be potentially it's higher risk in your ability to bear those costs. Overall, you need to have over $30,000 in medical expenses before it makes more sense to be on the PPO plan than the HSA plan. But it's hard to get people to think in terms of bearing that risk, how that plays out financially speaking for them. And people don't necessarily know, you don't know what your potential medical expenses for the following year are. And it's difficult for people to say, if I asked any one of you, what does a knee surgery cost? You probably don't really know. And so that's, yeah. So Allison knows, but nobody else knows. So 1 out of 6 of you. So we're trying to move all these different moving parts. And so if your question is in terms of what's the actual impact to the employee, well, it really depends. Each employee is going to experience it differently. If you're on the single plan, your premium is going down. However, if you have medical expenses, your deductible went up, your copays went up, your maximum out of pocket went up, okay? If you're a employee plus one, your change is very, very small in terms of the premium. It goes down just a little bit. But let's say you're super healthy and you don't necessarily have a lot of expenses, and you might have only met that, maybe you meet the deductible. Your deductible now this year might be $1,250, and that might be all the farther one person in your family gets. And you don't incur additional expenses beyond that in terms of maybe 10% on a little bit above that. So there may not be dipping a lot into that higher maximum out of pocket. On the family side, that premium does go up, but again, one person within that family only needs to meet that $1,250 deductible. And they would actually need 3 people to fully meet all of that deductible, and then go into 100% coverage for all members of the family. So a lot of different moving parts overall. With the change in the biggest change for the village impact is coming from the change in the premium equivalents overall, particularly within the HSA. What we were trying to do is move that HSA up so that long-term we're starting to establish a plan to collect enough on the HSA that should all employees migrate over, we're at the right level. So we're actually over collecting in terms of premium equivalent on the village side. And what we've set up is for a premium forgiveness on the HSA within the budget of 4 months, so that we're back down to a total budget amount of about $2 million is where we want to be. The employee contributions, they're bearing about $11,000 of this expense. And then the plan changes you saw on the previous page amounted to about $28,000 in terms of a cost shift on plan design. But again, all those changes don't necessarily fall on the same person. So it's hard to predict who's going to be in which bucket. If they're going to spend a lot more, they're going to save more, or somewhere in the middle, it could be a wash. Clear as mud?
My only question, and what I've tried to been researching, I thought the max that you could have per individual, so on the out of network, the member was 9,000.
Can you flip up a page? You're saying maximum out of pocket?
Yeah. Yeah, so like in the out of network in the yellow field, out of pocket maximum for out of network is listed as 9,000 per member. I thought there was a law that said the max was 6,850. I'm not sure if that 6,000 is for in-network only.
I can ask our broker. That's the only detail I do not know. It seems odd because those numbers are lower than our HSA, and so I'm not sure why they wouldn't somewhat match the HSA.
Yeah.
Although maybe
I didn't know if that was just in-network. I was trying to research out of network because there's a law on how much.
So what you're
I
saying?
know ours is up, we can go to, ours is a lot higher than that.
Per individual?
Yes.
So individual out-of-pocket maximum, you're questioning. I will, if you want to approve it in terms of it needs to comply with federal law, I have no problem with that.
More so
We'll make that
just in the employee plus one in the family. The individual is fine, but in the employee plus one in family, where it says 9,000 member, 12,000 employee plus one, I could have swore I saw something that was like $7,000, but I'm not sure.
Okay, I'll have them look it up. I'll have her look. I don't know, sorry.
Yeah. I tried to find it, but I couldn't.
I will move to approve the changes as described in item 10F.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the village health plan design modification.
One more thing I need, sorry, and I don't know if it got added in there in the green sheet. One other thing we wanted to do was make the HSA mandatory for all new employees starting January 1st.
Yeah, I saw that. Mhm.
One other added transition.
Yeah, and I would include that in the motion.
The other thing that,
Did the second approve that?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry,
Okay.
Mark, go ahead.
the other thing that, the the HSA doesn't do is have any employee share of deductible, so I think that eventually we have to get that up again, please.
That's kind of our long-term goal in terms of our next 3 years. Likely next year, we will have to look at an employee contribution on the HSA.
Many years ago, I was at a conference that we're going to be going to tomorrow, and it was down in Milwaukee. Keith Cormier was on our board at the time, and the county executive from Manitowoc had like 90% of his county employees opted to go into an HSA account. So
We had that at the county too.
I've been
here.
advocating for a long time for that. When you give people their health care dollars that they can deal with their own money, that's a good thing. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve those modifications. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Before you take another object, Madam President, I'm not trying to be funny here. I really am not. And this is not personal on anybody over there in the staff, but if I said that I understood the minutia of what was just explained, I'd be lying. I understand some of the fundamentals, but I just don't think this is something that ought to come to the board. We have a committee that looks at it. I have full faith in that committee. We've got a village manager, a village president, we've got a finance director who look at this, and this is not a motion or anything like that, but I just think in the future, something like this complicated, ought to be done by them. If they're satisfied with it, run with it. If something goes haywire, bring it back to the board. But to be honest with you, maybe Mark and Allison understand the details of this stuff, but I don't. I just don't. It would take me a week to go through this and really understand the details. Again, some of the fundamentals, I understand where we're trying to go, but boy, the details are way, way over my head. So it's just a comment.
It was a riveting conversation.
Ken, I've got to agree with you. Being self-employed and having, well, my wife helped me somewhat, but sometimes we weren't insured through employment. We were self-insured. To understand it, you better know a lot more than what I do. My answer was always go find your best insurance man and let him take care of it. Just like you said, Ken, the committee should take care of it because they have the knowledge on what they're talking about. To bring it here, if a couple of us understood it, fine, but I go by the recommendations of what the people that put this together did, and I'll live by that.
And I think Ellison understands it tremendously. I have full faith in her in this regard, and a lot of other guys.
As she was talking, I thought, you know, her other career could be in the insurance business. Because I would have to go with her to get the answers.
Okay.
Okay.
Moving on. 10K, action on the Fox River Fire District Automatic Aid Agreement.
Did we vote?
Chief?
Oh, did we vote on that one, Mary? The last one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we did, yeah.
Yeah, we voted.
Thank you, yeah.
Let's talk fire trucks. What you have before you tonight is the Fox River Fire District Agreement. As you see, the municipalities that are involved in this agreement, we've been working on this agreement for since 2015, feels like 15 years. But we've been actually practicing it since 2015. And now we have the actual written agreement for all the municipalities. And make a long story short, no, we've been here for a long time tonight. But basically said when someone calls 911, the Brown County Communication Center says smoke or fire, they're going to automatically dispatch that home fire district or fire department along with 3 other municipalities right away. The old system, Ashwaubenon would get called to a house, chief would show up along with their fire crew, go, yep, we got fire. Now call your municipality, your surrounding municipalities to come help out. So when that call comes in, where you're going to get 4 different fire units arriving on scene, plus whoever is the home fire department, they're going to send everything they have. So it'll be 4 plus whatever it is at that department. So seeing timing is everything, you know, and to get 4 units, which will give us 12 to 16 firefighters on scene is critical for life-saving measures and also with property preservation. So that's what you have here before you tonight. And it was asked at the last committee meeting, we've talked about MABUS. MABUS is the next step. And that's when the chief or the chief officer calls for a MABUS box card. We get more people to come in there. But this here is just for the first alarm when smoke and flames are showing. And it's not just for an alarm at a business or a residence. This is actually smoke and flames are showing. And with modern technology, with phones, cell phones and all that, people are pretty articulate when we believe what they see.
Eric, I see 5 communities involved in this.
Yes.
But Green Bay is not.
Green Bay is not. And Bellevue is in part of this agreement, but if we had a fire in our municipality, Bellevue would not come over here. Likewise, we do not go over there. The one municipality that's in common is De Pere because of they sit on both sides of the river.
Oh, okay.
I'll move to approve the agreement for the Fox River Fire District Automatic Aid Agreement.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the Fox River Fire District Automatic Aid Agreement. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks,
Thank you.
Eric.
Good luck. That's a great deal.
Okay. 10L, update on short-term rental enforcement action.
Someone asked for an update on this, so I will give one.
I think that was me, yes,
Okay.
yes.
We, in working with the Room Tax Commission, have kind of taken the lead role in implementing a web-based software called Short-Term, STR Helper. I'm sorry, brain's dead today. What they do is scrub all of the Airbnbs, the VRBOs, all the different websites, and determine with great specificity down to the location or a condo unit or an apartment unit, whatever it is, what properties are advertising on those websites to rent out their homes. The first goal in what we're trying to do is they have provided us, they're doing it throughout Brown County. It's a collective effort. They identified 223 properties that were advertising in the window that they studied. Going forward, they'll continue to monitor that, and properties will pop up onto that list. So it's an ongoing battle, if you will. They turned over to us all of those property addresses. We then, in turn, went to each of the municipalities in which those properties were located, identified whether those municipalities had any individual regulations like we do. In terms of a short-term rental license. The only communities that have something similar to us is Howard, and then Green Bay has something somewhat similar to what we do. There's other communities that are currently considering it, but right now that's all. And in addition, the properties would, at a minimum, need a tourist rooming house license from Brown County Health Department, except for those within the city of De Pere. They would need they have their own health department. They're not with Brown County, so their own health department license would be required. They're really implementing state law in terms of the tourist rooming houses. So we have sent all that data back in terms of who's in compliance, which individual properties are in compliance, back to short-term STR Helper. They, in turn, are sending back to us that data, which we now just kind of have to scrub to make sure it's accurate from the data that we sent. What will happen from here is we've separately kind of jumped to the gun and individually sent out letters on the properties that were identified in our list to let them know that they have our local regulations plus the Brown County health license regulations to adhere to. Pat sent out those letters. I believe none of them have done anything further as a result of his letter. So a second letter is or has gone out indicating that if they don't do so by a specified date, that they will receive a citation for failure to comply with our short-term rental license. So we'll continue on our separate path until STR Helper They're to the point too where we can essentially enter these kind of a standardized letter, if you will, and those can be sent out to all properties within the communities and direct them that they either need to get the appropriate health department license and or whatever local regulations. And that STR helper has a dashboard of sorts, which will always give us a constant monitoring of properties that are in compliance and properties that need enforcement action, so we can continue to update that system and make it a little more automated and seamless between our different communities. In addition, Brown County has a little different issue in terms of, obviously we have 223 properties out there. A vast majority of those do not have health department licenses. So one of the issues that we have to sort through is, if we send out a letter through this STR helper system, Brown County will be barraged with calls. And so they actually have proposed within the county budget to increase the fee on those licenses. And in order to increase the staffing levels they need in order to deal with the volume that will end up coming through there. And that's an annual license, which requires physical inspections of those properties. We have a few changes, I think, coming through on ours yet, too, or did we do those in terms of the fire inspection changes?
While Allison is looking there, I just wanted to bring to your attention this, because you might get some calls. To me, the fundamental issue here is these folks who are renting out their homes for $2,000, $2,500, $3,000 a weekend are not paying the room tax and the state sales tax. And Allison and Greg and myself, Mary, we go to the Room Tax Commission, which meets quarterly, and they're responsible for collecting, or not collecting, but keeping track of this whole room tax business, because those funds go to pay the bonds on the Resch Center and the KI Center downtown. And the Resch Center bonds actually were issued through the Ashwaubenon CDA, although they're backed ultimately by the county, because the Resch Center is in Ashwaubenon. So these folks are not paying their 10% room tax. If you rent your home out for $2,500 on a weekend, that's $250. That money needs to go to pay those bonds. And the hotel people have been working on this for a long time. They're upset with this because they're at a disadvantage, and their customers have to pay the 10% room tax and the sales tax, the state sales tax. And these folks who have the short-term rentals are not doing it. And it's just not right, and we need to get this under control. So some of you may have some of these places in your wards, and if these letters go out in some citations, you may get calls. But this is the fundamental. It has to do with health, as explained by Allison, but to me, the bottom line is these folks are not paying their fair share.
I agree. Yep. I agree.
I know what you're saying, Ken. The visitor convention, they had a nice article about that, this last letter that I read. But it's really surprising, paying attention as I go down the street after a Packer game, how many people that are coming out of these homes that who lives there during the week and who's coming out on a Monday morning.
Right.
And they got 2 cars in the driveway during the week, and the weekend they got 4 or 5 cars. So, yeah. I mean, it's not hard to figure out. Now, your 200 and whatever number there, Allison, that you were talking about, how current is that number? Does that get larger, smaller, monthly, weekly, daily? I mean... That's
not all Ashwaubenon, though.
No.
Those are not Ashwaubenon. Within Ashwaubenon, we have, I think, 17 or something like that, or 15, something like that. We haven't been through the list enough times because they haven't updated the total number, because we're trying to get compliance on just those. I mean, we had to reach out to 7, 8 communities to find out what regulations do you have. Do they have compliance or not? All 223 properties had to go through Brown County, or minus about 20 of them that went through to Pier. So there's a lot of verification that had to go back just in that first go around. And then rather than add new properties to it, we're kind of just trying to get to a benchmark, if you will, at this point, get some letters out, and then keep adding so we know where we are at. And Brown County didn't want us to go, we speed through this process and then all of a sudden send out 200 letters of needing Brown County Health Department license. They're way overwhelmed. They are just not staffed to equip to handle that in one fell swoop. So
This was really for information, so you're aware of what's going on.
I know where you're going with it.
All right.
I think it's good information, because like you said, Ken, that money is needed to pay for debts that we incur.
You bet. Okay, thanks, Allison.
Okay.
Putting that together.
Moving right along. 10M, action on resolution number R10-1-18, strategic transportation aid resolution. This has to do with the Just Fix It in Wisconsin road transportation. Sends to the governor that we want him to just fix the roads.
Is this a resolution we proposed?
It's been proposed by the League of Municipalities, Pat?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
sponsored.
Yeah, sponsored by the League of Municipalities. And they
Alright.
asked them all to adopt it.
I'll move to approve resolution number R10-1-18.
I think this is a political ploy myself.
I'll second.
We have a
Okay,
motion.
before you vote, Madam Chair, I'm all in favor, but except for in the very last paragraph, now therefore be it resolved, it says that a program to make a sustainable solution is to include a responsible level of bonding and adjust our user fees. I am totally opposed to bonding for infrastructure improvements, roads and bridges and so forth. That ought to be a user fee, which is a gas tax, and registration increases for cars that don't use gas or use a lot less gas because they're hybrids. So I'm going to vote no, not because I disagree with what's said in this resolution, but I do not believe in bonding for infrastructure. That just goes against my soul, if I have one.
Pat, is there any way that we could just remove that, approve it?
However, the board wants to amend.
Could we approve-
I go along with what Ken's saying, and I just want to bring this point out. We know Green Bay is going with the wheel tax. I just so happen we're getting registrations every day for vehicles we own. It just so happened my vehicles are kept in the city of Green Bay. I don't know why it's that way, but evidently I didn't follow up on it. I stopped at the DOT and asked them the question, just as I'm saying it. Green Bay is getting a wheel tax. I don't live in Green Bay. I live in the village of Ashwaubenon. She says, when you apply for your license again, cross Green Bay out, put the village of Ashwaubenon there, because I'm going to get charged that wheel tax
Yeah, that-
if that vehicle is registered for Green Bay. So you better alert people that.
You can go right online, Gary.
That was
and
on
do
our
it.
website.
Is that right?
Sure,
Yep.
change it.
All right.
Yep, we
But
put it-
anyway, they said cross it out. I don't know if she said something
You
online,
can
but
straighten that out.
make sure you change that. You don't want to.
Yeah. So can we, we had a motion and a second for this resolution. Could we have the motion amended to take out the word bonding?
Well, I don't want to do that if I'm just giving you my ideas. I'm fine with voting on it the way it is, but I just wanted to let you know why I would vote no. So I don't want to muddy the water, so to speak.
You were the second, correct?
No,
Trustee
Mike
Buckles?
was.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
So if we vote on this and it doesn't pass, then we could have another motion that would take the word bonding out.
Well, how do you want it to read, Madam President? You have one that includes a responsible level of bonding and adjust our user fees to adequately and sustainably fund Wisconsin's.
That's what we're voting on.
One that
Right.
includes a
Right, well-
responsible level to adjust our user fee. Leave out level of bonding.
So strike level
No.
of bonding.
Well,
No, no,
not yet.
not yet.
No,
Just
we'll
vote
have
on
to
a
vote
motion,
on the
vote on a
regular.
resolution as it's
Well,
presented.
you need the amendment before.
There's no
you vote.
amendment,
There's no
Mr.
amendment,
Clerk.
Pat.
There's no amendment as of yet.
Well, I understand, but there was just discussion of an amendment. That's why I'm asking.
Right, but there is not one on
There's
the
not
board.
one yet.
Very well.
Okay.
You have
So
to
there's
amend
a
first.
motion and a second to approve the resolution as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
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 Oh, Okay, Madam Chair, and I'll make a motion to approve this resolution, R10-1-18, with the amendment, Mr. Clerk, thank you, which would say, if you go to the second line of the now therefore paragraph, which is the last paragraph, you see the colon there, right? Semicolon? No, the colon after the word solution?
Correct.
All right, my amendment would be to say, one that includes, and then you eliminate the words a responsible level of bonding and the word and. Eliminate the words a responsible level of bonding and. So it would read, one that includes adjusting, add ing to the word adjust, one that includes adjusting our user fees to et cetera, et cetera.
So you're leaving out the responsible level of bonding, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Got it?
All right, all right. Now, I gotta apologize for myself. My mouth opened up before the brain went to gear.
You're fine, don't worry about it.
I still think this is a political ploy, so I'm going to vote against it.
Really?
I'd agree.
Well,
How can you, we need money to fix the roads. How can it be a political ploy?
well,
That's
By who?
I know
By
what
who?
they're
the
thinking.
Democrats.
You want to
Yeah,
drive
how are
on
you
the
gonna
road,
fix
you gotta
roads?
pay.
How are you gonna fix roads without putting in increasing the gas tax?
You can vote the way you want, Ken. I'm
Well, I
just
know, but
telling
I'm
you.
asking you a question. It's not a ploy. How are you gonna fix the roads, Mark? Tell me, what are you gonna use to finance fixing roads and
We're
bridges?
fixing them right now in our budget.
Not in a state, we've got some of the worst infrastructure in the country.
I'll call the question, please.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Who was the second, please?
I second it.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second to amend Resolution R10-1-18 to strike responsible level of bonding and add adjusting user fees. Does everybody understand that?
I don't like it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
2 noes.
Who's the other no?
Ellison, Williams,
Both
Mark
Williams?
Williams.
Thank you.
Okay. 10N, discussion and action on Ashwaubenon High School students to serve on Village Board and Park Board. Okay. This was brought by me. I went to a conference in August, and there's some communities that have a youth council.
Oh.
And right now, I didn't want to start off with a youth council, but I called Kurt Weyers at the school district, and I talked with the teacher from the government class to go in and see if there's any students that would be interested in coming, and possibly 2 students to sit on village board. They would not have voting power, but they would have input. We want to engage our young people in our government, and I thought this would be a great way to do it. So I thought maybe park board, if I had 2 sitting on village board, we could have 1 go on park board and 1 go on plan board. That way they could be in some of the meetings, see if there's any interest. But before I went ahead into the school, I wanted the village board to be on board with it. So.
I was on the school board for years, and when I first got on the school board, we had a student rep. And they sat on the board with us, and they did exactly as you said. Now, we've had a lot of different student reps over the years. We had a lot of good ones that had input and are still around the community, and we've had some ones that didn't show up, and then they didn't have input. So it depends on who you get and the dedication they have to attending these meetings.
Well, yeah, with anything.
And I mean, sometimes it's nice to get their perspective on it, because I'm gonna say it, but there's a lot of one age group on this board, if I can't say that.
Speak for yourself.
Or, you know what I mean, there's.
Mature people, Mark.
Sure, yes, there you go. So I mean, sometimes we don't think that way of the way these younger people are thinking.
You know, this young lady that presented, she's been on the youth council in, I believe, Wisconsin Rapids for 4 years. She was accepted into Harvard. She's excited to go to Harvard. She's excited to go back to Wisconsin Rapids. I don't think if she was not involved in that community as much as she is, I can't say that after Harvard she would go back to Wisconsin Rapids. And that's what we want, is we want our students to go, to get educated, and then to come back. So I thought it was a great way, and like I said, I would just like a consensus of if you would like me to move forward with this.
Is there any way that, like, let's say we get 10 students interested and obviously can only take 2, is there like an application?
I haven't even thought that far. I just thought
Okay.
I would just like to know if you would be interested in that before I proceed any further.
I was part of the Rural Leadership Program, which was a statewide program run by Extension for many years and is still in existence. This is exactly what we need to energize people who will volunteer to come and do this at this age, because we need to build our expertise over time. I'm all in favor of this, Mayor.
Okay.
Well, we shock the world once in a while. I am opposed to this. Period.
Okay.
I'm in favor. I'd like to see where it goes. I'd like to see.
You try it, I mean, it's not.
I agree. I think let's look at it. Like Mark said, it's hard to get a dedicated one. But it kind of impresses me. Sometimes we have a group of young students here that are here for a reason, but you don't see them come back because they have that interest in whatever. But I don't know, if you dangle a carrot long enough, maybe they'll jump on it.
Well,
You don't know till you try.
right.
Right.
So am I getting the consensus to move forward with this and get some more information going on it?
Yep.
Yes.
I have
See
no
if
problem
there's any,
getting
I
more
mean,
information.
you don't know if there's any kids that are even interested in it.
Yeah, I'll go to the school class and see.
I'll go along with you, Mayor.
Okay.
I would, but I can't.
I've had the excuse me.
I was gonna say I would if it's on a day where I'm not working. I'd consider going, but
I can't hear you.
I said I would consider going if it's on a day where I'm not working.
I had the opportunity once to go to the Ashwaubenon High School and give a presentation on being self-employed, and it was hard to keep their attention. Maybe I was boring them. But at the end, I offered anybody interested in a summer job, come and see me. I had exactly none that came to see me.
Really?
None.
Well, we'll see where it goes. There's my consensus. Okay. 10N, or excuse me, 10O, Halloween trick-or-treat hours. Chief, we've kept you here for a long time.
You guys can't tinker with this. I already talked to the kids at school. 4 to 7, October 31st, that's our trick-or-treat hours.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
We didn't hear from Doug.
He left all the riveting conversations to Allison tonight. Okay, any items for next agenda? If you have any, call the office. Number 12, closed session.
During the meeting, the village board of the Village of Ashwaubenon may convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute Section 19.851C for the purpose of discussion and update on considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of public safety employee personnel matters over which the village board has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. The village board may thereafter reconvene in open session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute Section 1985 Sub 2 to report the results of the closed session and consider the balance of the agenda.
Need a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to go into closed session. All those in favor, or excuse me, voice vote.
Trustee Allison Williams.
Yes.
Trustee Paul.
Yes.
Trustee Mark Williams. Trustee Bukowski.
Yes.
Trustee Melchesky.
Yes.
President Kardowski.
Yes.
We are in closed session.
Thank you.